All right. So I just watched Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, and Shea give the most nonchalant ass fucking interview I've ever seen in my life. That was a funny interview. But yeah, the Thunder come back from what happened in Game Three and proved why they are the best team in the NBA and win Game Four and are probably going to win in Game Five. Um, and move on to the NBA Finals. I don't see Minnesota winning. Um, Game Five. This just has to be deflating for them, especially considering the fact that they shot well enough, they got to the line enough, they got to, they got enough better field goal percentage than OKC. But at the end of the day, it just simply came down to the fact that they had 21 turnovers and 9 of them in the first quarter, I believe. And people will talk about how clutch time affected the Timberwolves, right? Excuse me, they had seven turnovers in the first quarter. Is that seven turnover? No, it's somewhere. It's like more like five. That's insane. But them just fucking giving the ball away carelessly in the first quarter, I think ultimately lost them this game. Right? Um, Even though Jalen Williams went off in the first, this was the Jalen Williams game, right? First quarter and fourth quarter specifically, he was on. If you saw this game from the moment it happened, you knew he was gonna have a special performance, and he did tonight. 34 points, fucking doing what he normally does, right? And Chet Holmgren having a big impact on this game, bigger impact on this game than Shea, in the fourth quarter, I'm talking in my opinion, is not something I had on my bingo card, right? I didn't see Chet Holmgren get pushed around like he normally does, although I think that's just due to how what plays came up or what how the game transpired. But actually, not thinking he probably did, but he goes lights on it in the fourth quarter. It felt like he was that mini haha again, absolutely fucking destroying teenagers' dreams of the NBA again. Like he was really fucking good. He played super well, and even though Shea had 40 points, right, this was not his best game, right? The Timberwolves were able to get him to shoot seven threes, right? Which you want him to shoot those seven threes, right? Because he does. It's he's good at it, but he's not as good as his mid range, right? And even though, well, he had 40 points, right? Which 40 points is 40 points, right? They still could have won this game if they hadn't fucked up on turnovers. Honestly, the fact that the matter is that having that turnover run in the first quarter is unacceptable. It just is, and ultimately, I think that's what costed them this game, losing the turnover battle, which speaks to how fucking batshit insane this OKC defense is. I mean, Caruso and Wallace in particular, holy fuck, they are outstanding defenders, and they've proved it again. I mean, they just in that first quarter during that bit where Minnesota was just turning the ball over like crazy. Caruso and Wallace had them on fucking lockdown. It was one of the most impressive defensive displays I've ever seen of basketball, of just a team losing their will, and they've done it all series. But that specific part is, in my opinion, the most important factor in this game, right? And yeah, man, it's just now the Timberwolves are down 3-1. I don't see them winning Game Five going on the road. Maybe if they were the home team in this situation, I would be able to see them being able to bounce back. But man, that this has got to be brutal. This just has to be brutal for them, man. They just didn't play well enough to win. Even though the Thunder almost choked at the end, they just weren't good enough to play. So, just simple as that. Is there anyone else I want to shout out? Kenrich was fine, and Isaiah not the best. All right, Jalen actually got run, but it doesn't say his minutes on. All right. Also, Lou Dort played great defense, and Hardenstein he wasn't really a big factor in the game. In fact, they had to switch Caruso. They had to switch Caruso for Hardenstein in the second half. Was clutch on the final play where basically had a rebound off and see if they can get ball. But other than that, yeah, that's that. Timberwolves, right? I don't think the issue with this game was Edwards being 5 of 13, right? And only having 16 points, right? Although he should be doing better, right? And I don't think the issue with this game, although this shouldn't be happening, is Julius Randle absolutely struggling in this game with OKC's defense and having 5 turnovers along with Ant, right? Nikhil ended up having 4 as well, but he was fine. But he was actually really great off the bench. Singletary, Shannon giving energy minutes, Dante DiVincenzo playing well, and Nasri shooting the ball well, right? It came down to the turnovers at the end of the day, right, for both of them. And I'm talking, I forget. Um, Now let me go back to the first quarter and see what the turnovers were like, because I know the turnovers were pretty much just fucking batshit insane. Get me to the point where Case and Wallace turned into this game. Uh, Bad pass, loose pass, or was it in the second quarter? I don't know. Russo. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. I think Wallace was in it. I think even at this point, I don't know, but it was at some point where Minnesota was just turning the ball over constantly. That forced this game. Um, there's just no other way to say it. So where does this leave this series now? Right. Um, Obviously you can lament fucking the other factors like Randall and Edwards struggling, right? And I'm not and talking shooting, but the turnovers and just how they ended up coming about because OKC's defense is just this fucking good. Um, I think really just shows how great of a team OKC is compared to Minnesota, right? Or how just or not compared, but just how great OKC is in general, right? Because you can lose the free throw battle, the 3 point battle, and the field goal battle, and be more efficient, be less efficient, and yet still be able to win this game because you got more turnovers, right? Um, what is OKC's turnover margin this season? I want to see that. All right, OKC turnover margin. I want to see. 400. Oh my fucking god, that is insane. 401 turnovers more than given up. All right, 401 plus. Right. This is kind of what OKC's done all year. Right. Obviously, Minnesota was on fire today with DiVincenzo, Alexander Walker, Reed, Shannon, pretty much everyone not named. Conley, who Conley doesn't can only shoot threes. He cannot drive to the rim at his age. Edwards and Randall, right? Even Gobert, right? He was unplayable at times, but still made enough impact, I think, in this game, and I don't blame this loss on him. And Jaden McDaniels is Jaden McDaniels. Like, he's awesome, right? But really, at the end of the day, right? Obviously, you can say that turnovers set them back, but given how fucking clutch OKC was down the stretch, right? Jalen and Chet and Shea to an extent just kept firing haymakers at Minnesota, and because of what happened earlier in the game, where Minnesota just turned the ball over and over and over and over, right? They put themselves in that hole, and they weren't able to climb out of it. In Game Five, in Game Five, right, when the energy is going to be at an all time high. Actually, shout out to the Yankees; they're up 4-1. Their bases are loaded right now, so shout out to them. Go Yanks, right? Is Minnesota going to be able, if they end up in this hole again, dig themselves out of this hole without having a crowd behind their back, right? And they lost 2 games in OKC, right? And at the end of the day, I don't know if this Timberwolves team is going to go back to Minnesota with Game 6. I don't know. I'm leaning OKC closing this out in 5 based off what I've seen in this game. But at the end of the day, man, the turnover spree in the first quarter, and the basically masterclass of Williams and Chet taking over and Shea contributing to an extent, right? That pretty much sealed this game for OKC. And to think that the OKC Thunder may have a championship in the 21st century, even though they fucked up the big three era of Harden, Westbrook, and Durant is insane. That is genuinely fucking insane. I'm surprised. I mean, that's the owner's fault, really. To be honest, I think Sam Presti would have given Harden the deal, if not for the owner. But that's a whole other conversation. But they're one game away, and yeah, they're just one game away from being in the finals and getting to rest because honestly, it looks like in the Pacers and next series they're going to absolutely beat the shit out of each other. So yeah. Also, is that fucking yeah? That's fucking rain outside. But yeah. Hopefully Minnesota makes it competitive like they did today in Game 5. But I think OKC can somewhat start celebrating, although I wouldn't get too ahead. Because every fucking time I think a series is over, nope, complete fucking comeback, complete fucking chaos in this conference finals. I thought the Knicks weren't coming back and we're about to get swept. They fucking come back from 20 points. I think the Pacers aren't coming back 2 games in a row. They somehow fucking do it. It's just insane. These playoffs have been fucking fantastic, by the way. Can't wait for the finals. I don't know what the hell's gonna happen there, but yeah. Let's just see what the hell happens for the rest of the series. Because now me saying that I think this series is over, Minnesota's gonna take this to 7. Come on out.